have to say, in addition to running your venture fund, you were also COO of PayPal back in the day and have had many various companies since then. But I want to ask you now about your blog post that you just put up this week. It was entitled, "GameStop was a warning. Elites are weaponizing censorship to keep the outsiders out." Now, David, I want to note that your VC fund, Craft Ventures, did invest in Reddit. Tell us your thesis around the Reddit GameStop short squeeze.
Yeah, thanks, Julia. So what we saw, it was very interesting. In addition to the fact that that Wall Street bets, the Redditors, that their ability to trade was frozen at a crucial moment, their lines of communication were also disrupted. And so what we saw was an organized effort to try and get their message boards taken down. It succeeded in the case of Discord. It didn't work in the case of Reddit. Reddit stood up to the pressure, but we saw Discord invoke the principle of censorship to take down the discussion board of Wall Street Bets. And I think it's a really good example of the slippery slope that we're on here, where just 3 weeks ago, censorship was justified on the grounds of preventing an insurrection. Okay, I get that. But now we're using censorship basically as a weapon or to stop outsiders from communicating on a trade. And I'm very concerned about continuing to be on the slippery slope and where it goes from here.
But it's worth noting, though, that these are companies that are enforcing their terms of service. These are not countries that are censoring the people. These are companies that are deciding to say that we are, this is someone who's violating our terms of service. So I'm curious, when you talk about this idea of censoring networks and how much your perspective is sort of shaped by the fact that you're an investor in Reddit. How does that play into things?
I'm a very small investor in Reddit, along with 100 other companies. It really doesn't affect my decision on this. I mean, I'm glad they stood up to the censorship in this case, and if they didn't, I'd certainly be criticizing them along with Discord. To your point, you're right that the First Amendment does not apply to private companies. And frankly, that's what concerns me, is that we used to have a thing called the town square that was on public land in this country, and you could go there and speak up, and you were protected by the First Amendment. But now the town square has been privatized. It's owned by corporations, and it's been now centralized in their hands, and they can get together and deny us our free speech rights. And I kind of wonder, how much of a First Amendment sort of free speech right do we have in this country when big corporations can just take it away without any protections or due process whatsoever? That's exactly what concerns me.
David, what I don't get about this is that there's a lot of talk about the public square being privatized, but the internet's still the internet. I mean, people can get online and post whatever they want on their own page, or even use tools that are not owned and monitored under those kinds of terms of service to organize discussion groups. It's just that they're choosing these platforms like Facebook, right, like Reddit, like Discord, I suppose, because they work better. So, I mean, if you want to have that kind of open conversation, the internet still works for that. Maybe it doesn't work as well as you'd like it to, but don't investors like you fund companies or ideas, it doesn't even have to be a company, that can get around that?
Sure, and I was an investor in Facebook, and I think the creation of these companies was a great thing. What concerns me is the way that they're regulating speech now. Look, the First Amendment doesn't just contain a right to speech, it contains a right to assemble. Where do people assemble today? They assemble today online, on the internet, inside these giant social networking apps that have gigantic network effects. And if you get shut out of these apps, what is your effective free speech right in this country? If you get silenced and basically ghosted and deplatformed, you don't have a free speech right.
Well, it doesn't cover the right to assemble on private property, though. I mean, I think that would be the point in a public space, right? Like, you can't come to my house and assemble, or into my business, in violation of the terms I set up for my business, and say that it's the First Amendment, right?
No, but there are cases in California of protesters protesting on the private land of shopping malls, and the courts upheld their right to do that. There's a Supreme Court case called Packingham, which basically said that the state could not deny access to social media on the part of certain criminals. And so I think there is some legal justification here for saying that big tech companies shouldn't be able to shut people out with any due process of law at all.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.